It's the pop culture field, and you will.
Let me ask you a question then, since we're on the topic of breakfast foods here. What do you think? This is a conversation that has been argued about in Congress and in court and all over the world, has been responsible for many world wars. What do you think constitutes breakfast? Like, what do you think makes a meal breakfast?
Oh, like something that's like a specific breakfast food? Like,
Yeah,
you
like
don't
what?
eat
How
this
does it
food in
become?
other,
Yeah,
yeah,
in
how does it become
other
a breakfast?
times
Well,
of the
listen, I mean,
day.
if we're going to really talk about this and this very deep philosophical question, I mean, the time, obviously,
You think the
I
time?
think, I think the time, I mean, the time relative to what your schedule is, because I could say breakfast is between 6 a.m. and 10, 6 a.m. and 11 a.m., right?
Uh-huh.
Now we're getting into the brunch time periods after that. Now, if you work nights and you get up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that's your breakfast time. It's not the universal breakfast time for that time
Mhm.
zone, but um, but I would say the time has to do with it. And man, now that you're talking about it, it really is kind of a divisive question because it's so cultural. Like I
Yeah.
don't eat rice for breakfast. That's not a breakfast food to
Yeah,
me,
some
but maybe over in
cultures do.
Japan it is. Yeah, over in Asia.
Yeah, so, like but then on if you're on the topic of time, if you think just time quantifies something as being breakfast food, what about when people have breakfast for dinner?
Right. But see,
Yeah,
that's the exception that proves the rule. They're having breakfast. They acknowledge that it's not normally eaten at that time, but they're eating it at a different time, which makes it special.
uh-huh,
Otherwise, it'd just be dinner.
okay. See, for
Then,
me, I think I would say 95% of it, because just like the English language, there is a lot of rules that break rules.
mhm.
So for me, I think what constitutes a breakfast food or a breakfast meal is the presence of an egg.
Really, that
I-
simple, huh?
yeah, I think if there is an egg involved in it, except for like ramen, obviously, which sometimes have eggs, but if most breakfast foods that we see or we eat typically have some sort of form of egg involved. So, like, the only
Mm,
ones that I think go against it are like waffles and like pancakes, because you can have like
mhm.
pancakes and bacon, but there is no eggs unless you have like scrambled eggs on the side. But typically, when you order pancakes at a restaurant, you just get pancakes.
Right.
But everything else usually is like has an egg involved. So if
Now,
you,
are you saying that you can have an egg? You can have an egg in other meals, right?
yeah,
That doesn't make them breakfast, but for breakfast, you would say it qualifies if there is an egg present.
yes, that is what I'm saying.
All right. All right.
Interesting.
I like your style. I like your very succinct and simple parameters. You don't get
Yeah.
too complicated. You're like, hey, is there an egg around? All right, breakfast.
Okay. Guess we're having no eggs. Guess we're having lunch or dinner. Okay.
You know what? It's funny. Speaking of things, before we jump in, speaking of things that you love to eat but don't eat very often, I can't believe that I only eat pumpkin pie once a year. I love pumpkin pie,
It's seasonal.
and it's seasonal. But I could go get a pumpkin pie. It's not like they don't make pumpkin pies other parts of the year.
Yeah.
And I think to myself every time I have a slice of pumpkin pie for around Thanksgiving, I think,
Sure.
man, why don't I eat this all the time? And then, then I think, well, it's special.
Yeah, it's special. It's seasonal. I feel like everybody's up on pumpkins. The pumpkin fever is going around fall time. But
Oh
like,
yeah, pumpkin
you never see
spice.
yourself in like, towards the end of spring, or you just hit spring and someone's like, "You know what I can go for? Pumpkin." That
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
out of place for me.
Pumpkin.
Some pumpkin
It
sounds
sounds
good.
even weird to say as a
Yeah.
man. I don't think I should say, you know what?
Yeah,
I
pumpkin.
wouldn't be surprised. So much of our diet is dictated by things that have nothing to do with nutrition. I mean, it's like politics, it's culture, it's historical norms, it's pop psychology.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised that, like, who knows what our fall would look like if, some sort of, the big pumpkin, if the big pumpkin, the lobbyist big pumpkin group hadn't gotten in there and
Yeah, the
started,
pumpkin party. Yeah.
yeah, the pumpkin party, hadn't started pumping in their pumpkin propaganda,
Absolutely.
properly pumping it into the pop culture.
Yeah, Starbucks would be absolutely irrelevant during this time of year.
Yeah.
But pumpkin spice everything is on the horizon and has been infiltrating our
Yeah.
ranks. But
Yep. It is.
with all this food talk, I think we should just dive right into the topic. Folks,
Dive in.
welcome to the Pop Culture Field Manual podcast, sitting right at the intersection of weapons action, the military, and pop culture. Today, Izzy and I are going to graciously talk about all things food within pop culture.
Yeah, you're gonna be hungry in the midst of, and then after this episode is done. We're glad you could join us, folks. By the way, I want to keep you abreast of all the latest and greatest and stuff. I have an announcement, Cameron. I'm coming out with a new YouTube channel,
What?
and we called the Is Files, and it's just going to be me playing horror games and reacting to them. So if that sounds like something that you're into, keep an eye out on YouTube. We'll keep announcing it through the Patreon, our socials, and then if you want to watch me on Twitch, I'm announcing it till I'm blue in the face. But new channel coming up. It's a kind of my own little venture, and I hope you can join me for that if that's what you're into.
Are you a big horror like genre type guy?
No,
Because I
but
know you're a
I am
man of God.
I am a man of God, and I am protected both from the evil spirits by the Holy Spirit. But what I am is a gamer, and so when it
Yeah.
comes to the experiencing a horror game rather than just watching a movie, movies are obviously can be very engaging. Horror has its own special place in society, I think, because there's something that touches the primal part, the lizard part of our brains. But there's
Yeah.
something extra special, I think, about interacting with and experiencing a video game, a horror video game, that is different from just passively watching a horror movie. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm excited for it. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of practice to get ready for the new channel.
Nice, man.
And I'm excited. I think it's going to be good stuff. That's not only that, but there's going to be some extra fun stuff that we're going to put in there. And then I also have some other plans for some other YouTube channels coming out after that. But this will be kind of the flagship, the initial launch, the initial salvo into the YouTube world for me, kind of going solo. But yeah, it'll be a good time. It'll be a good time.
Well, awesome, man. I'm super pumped for you. And you hear that, people? Check out Is Files coming at you very soon. Is it out yet, or are you still?
Not, no. By the time you're listening to this, hopefully we should have. I'm hoping by the end of Halloween, basically. But we still got a few back end stuff to take care of, and it's a lot to. I got my partner Mikhail, out there in France. He and I are going back and forth, batting around ideas. We're almost ready. We're like in the final stages to get ready to launch things. So keep an eye out for it, folks. Follow me on socials. Follow me on my Twitch channel. Be part of my Discord community, and so you'll hear about it. I'm going to be blasting it out. Everybody and their mother's going to know about this channel.
Well, awesome. Well, we also wanted to do a special shout out to one of our newest patron members or Patreon members. Shout out to Mike B, who committed to becoming a salty sergeant. So thank you. It warms our hearts more than MRE beef stew on a cold Iraqi winter night. We appreciate you, Mike. And we appreciate all our patrons. So thank you very much. If you guys are interested in becoming part of our Patreon, we have an awesome tier selection level that gives you access to all sorts of different types of exclusive content. And if you subscribe to our top tier, our lifer tier, you get to join Izzy and I, as well as the rest of the gang, at a monthly movie live stream. And we always have a good time doing it. So if that sounds interesting to you, go ahead and check out our Patreon.
Yeah, it's a good time, folks. So, Cam, we're talking about food today. Let's just kind of do an overview, and then we'll get into some specifics about different foods that we have seen and some of our favorite pieces of pop culture, because food plays an important part in movies, television, especially video games. We'll talk about a little bit about that, but just talking generally about IRL, real world nutrition. What do you think? What are your thoughts? General kind of overview about nutrition and training in general.
Okay.
I can say general one more time.
In general. Yeah. So in general, well, no, my opinion on food is obviously, like, a lot of people tend to think, especially when you find yourself in a training mindset, whether you're training for a marathon or trying to get strong or you just find yourself looking to live in a more active and healthy lifestyle. A lot of people get sucked up into that belief that, it's all in the gym. Everything is made in the gym. And I'm here to tell you that that's as far from the truth as possible. You need to have a strong fundamental grasp of the relationship between food and training. And I think this episode is going to be fun because we're going to talk about all sorts of great food that we see in pop culture. But at the end of the day, like, you need to be regimented when it comes down to what foods you choose and how you plan on implementing them into your training. Because, oftentimes it's not enough just to, beat your ass in the gym or work your ass off in the gym and just expect, performance to increase when you're not planning at a nutrition level. The two need to be mutually inclusive to each other. So one's not going to happen with the other. So like, in the military, we have a very carb reliant regime, meaning, we are working long hours. We are exhausting ourselves. It's more of an endurance event being in the military than it is just being strong. So typically that's why you see, like, I've seen athletes, like top tier level college athletes, try to become special forces or try to become rangers, and they just can't cut it because they have created this perfect environment of training and nutrition that in the military, especially in a field environment, does not exist. So, when you take away the machines and you take away the constant food that's given to these athletes to fuel that performance, they crumble because they haven't trained that before. So I think one thing that separates definitely military operators and from the rest of the world is the ability to perform at a high level with low fuel. And, I think that's the factor. So like, I never have seen bodybuilders in special operations. Like, if there are, they're very few and far in between. Most of the dudes are built like gorillas, like giant power gut and just strong traps, shoulders, not the biggest arms in the world, because biceps and triceps really do nothing for you in the real world except for attract other men to you. But yeah, no, it's, the guys are built like gorillas. They have this ginormous power gut because that's where all their nutrients is stored. Their fats, their carbs is just basically, they have this tank that they can run off for a long time. It's like a reserve tank. And that's why you don't really see dudes with like these, lean six packs, because ultimately when you're when you're carrying 50 to 100 pounds on your back in just sustainment equipment, and you need to walk, thousands of kilometers, or you need to walk like thousands of meters, or 10, 20 kilometers, being lean and being malnourished in a way is not going to help you. So I think it's extremely important to incorporate the food and the training together, and just teaching your body how to work with that. What do you think, man? What do you think the relationship between food and training is?
I mean, if there's one thing I've learned more recently, is that there's always more to learn about food and nutrition. So I want to encourage everybody, anybody out there listening, you and I have gotten questions about how to prepare for selection and, what to think about in terms of training for this, that, and the other thing. And it's a big open space. It's like a universe full of information in and of itself, both food, both nutrition and training. And so wherever you're at, that's okay. Just start learning whatever you can, and you're going to evolve, and you're going to learn that you were wrong on this thing or right in some areas, and new information is going to come out, and you're going to change your mind and start training differently. But to get the ball rolling is a good thing, also to train for what you are going, train for the mission. You know what I mean? If you're in the military, you're a ranger, you're training to do what rangers do, right? Like you said, long endurance, high performance. It's a lot of physical activity, but you also have to stay agile and adjustable, and be able to react with high intensity at any given moment over a long period of time, a 24-hour operation or a 2-day operation or whatever you guys do, same thing with special forces. Those kinds of operations last for a long time, and you need to train for that physically and mentally. And then you need to fuel your body with good fuel, right? And so then you get into the nutrition side of it. You get into getting the proper vitamins and minerals into your body that maybe you're not getting from your food. So you get into supplementation a little bit, to whatever degree is healthy for you. And so it's encouraging to see. I did a little bit of research talking about the Army evolving its ideas about nutrition and food.
Yeah, they've come a long way.
Yeah, gears move slowly in the military, but they do move, and eventually the Army catches on to what's going on in the world. And then they, of course, formalize it and standardize it and put it into a little box and present it to the troops. But it's better than it's better than what has come before. I think we've gotten better about it, even just since from the time that I was into where you were in. You tell me about all the stuff that you used to do in the Ranger Regiment. You have nutritionists and all that kind of stuff. That was really encouraging to know, because I don't know that we had a lot of that in a formal aspect in SF when I was in, though I did start to explore those things on my own because I was like, I'm a Green Beret. I got to perform at a high level. What is good nutrition? What do I need to be taking for myself? And so I did a lot of
becomes an
experimentation
individual responsibility. Yeah,
absolutely. It is everybody's responsibility, even if you're not in the military. To your diet and your exercise is your responsibility ultimately. And so that's a good thing. That's a good thing. You can't let anybody hold you back.
I think that's enough about that. Let's dive into some terrible foods that aren't good for you, that just look amazing, or that we just wanted to try, maybe fictional, or just have been featured in some pop culture pieces that are just really cool. Let's talk about those.
Yeah. First one up, it's the 1991 film Hook, directed by Steven Spielberg. It's got Robin Williams, where Peter Pan has grown up. He's an old fat guy named Robin Williams, and he gets taken back to Neverland, and he has to remember how to be a little irresponsible boy again. And one of the best scenes in the movie is the feast, the Lost Boys feast, with the Never food. And like, he can't see it at first because he's got to use his imagination. And then eventually he lets loose and he can see. It's just an amazing spread because it's got everything. It's got mounds of like giant turkey legs, and it's all like fantastical looking, and great, whatever drink that they're drinking, tons of fruit, and then like that colorful
pudding
stuff.
It's like pudding. What no one knows what it is. It's like goo. It's like pudding or goo.
Pudding. Yep.
Yeah. And I've always wondered, what does that taste like? Because it looks fantastically amazing.
Yeah.
And not to mention the food fight they have, like everybody gets covered with that stuff.
Yeah.
There you are, Peter.
Yeah.
But no, that scene's amazing out of that movie, just because, when we're on the topic of food here, and like you said, there's everything on that table. There's like roast beef, there's fruits, there's all this food that you have no idea what it is, but it looks good. I think that's definitely a factor for me when it comes to food. Like, does it look good? Is like one of the presentation is definitely an important thing for me. It's because something can taste like the best thing in the world, but if it looks like crap, I'm going to be hesitant to eat it. Speaking of that,
what's that?
Oh, go for it. I was
going to say there must be some psychological aspects to it. Like, I know that there's some chefs out there, maybe you're listening, and you learn about that kind of stuff, like contrasting colors and where it is on the plate, and the variety and all that kind of stuff. I've even heard some, I don't know if this is true, but you hear so many things in nutrition. That's one of the pitfalls of trying to explore good eating. But if you have like different contrasting colors on your plate, like yellow corn and like a brown or pink steak, or the green beans, steak. That's supposed to be indicative of something nutritious. Probably not.
I don't believe that. Like the whole like presentation when it comes to a chef, sometimes I'm like, that looks like crap. But then like, professional chefs are like, you're an artist. Like, real professional chefs are like also consider themselves artists, and like how they plate the food is so important.
But what about, I know that I'm a big fan. I've always wanted to know what this might taste like or how it would feel. But the lembas bread from Lord of the Rings.
Oh, lembas bread. And look, more lembas
bread. He's like,
Yeah, no.
a one small bite could satisfy a man for a whole day. How many did you have?
Yeah.
5.
Yeah, 5. Yeah, fatty, fat shaming. Bring fat shaming back. But yeah, no, that's a great one. Lembas bread from Lord of the Rings. It kind of becomes like the icon food other than the salted pork at
Yes. Yes.
Isengard. Yeah. And the
Yes.
salted pork is particularly good. But yeah, no, lembas bread, it's wrapped in that beautiful green elf leafery.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's said to be able to support you throughout the entire mission. I mean, there's actually recipes online that you can make your own lembas bread.
Really?
And
What is
I
it
was
made?
looking at,
What are you making? Are you making like, it looks like just a piece of bread, like a little maybe what do they call it? I don't know, like a Mexican like flatbread or something, like a pan, or what is it? What's the stuff you get at, not Mexican, but like a Greek restaurant? You know what I'm talking about?
yeah.
Baklava,
Oh yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, it kind of looks like
Baklava.
I don't think it's baklava,
No, no,
but
no, no.
pretty
It's
much. I mean,
overseas.
it's basically just like a sweet bread. That's what it is. So, like for the real life recipe, they have all-purpose flour. Of course, you need flour for bread. Baking powder, salt, butter, brown sugar, cinnamon, honey, heavy whipping cream, and vanilla extract. So, like
That all sounds amazing.
it sounds great. So, to me, the real life version, and it looks like it directly out of the movie. They even have it in the squares, and they have the little sections cut and everything. But it just sounds like a sweet bread in real life. But obviously, in the Tolkien universe, with the help of the magic of the elves, it becomes this amazing food that sustains you.
Ha!
But yeah, I've always wanted to try it. It looks super good. Even though it's like the most simple thing ever. It's just like a piece of bread wrapped in leaves. But I think it's just the fact that it's associated with Lord of the Rings makes it way more desirable to me.
Yeah. Yeah. This next one we can talk about a little bit. It seems basic, but I can remember this scene, and it reminds me of the sounds that can just make you hungry. Like when you
Oh
hear
man.
like cooking bacon. This is the eggs and bacon dish from Howl's Moving Castle, the anime from 2004, the Miyazaki anime.
Yeah.
Great story, as all of them are from Miyazaki. But just the hearing of the cooking, the little popping and
The
sizzling sounds of
sizzling, yeah.
bacon and eggs. Oh, I'm getting hungry right now.
Yeah, no, the reason I threw this in there is because like when I saw Howl's Moving Castle a long time ago, this scene has stuck in my head. Just because you know how, I mean, this won't be the first anime dish that we have on the list here, but
Yeah.
for some reason, food in anime just looks like the most delicious thing in the world. And
Yep.
the fact that like, he creates it's so simple, it's just bacon and eggs, but like in one skillet, like cooking next to each other, you can just imagine how like the bacon grease gets on the egg, and then it's a sunny side up egg, so when you crack the yolk, it's just going to go over the bacon, and it just
Ugh.
visually just looks to die for. And this dish has stuck with me to this day. So anytime I actually bought a skillet, and I've tried recreating like bacon and eggs in one dish, and it's so classic, but it's just timeless. And it's amazing. Yeah, it's something that makes you hungry. That's not real, but real at the same time. Is this scene from the movie?
Have you ever been watching something or playing a game or something, and a food gets in there, and you're like, you know what, I need that right now?
Probably off the top of my head right now. Why, is there one that sticks out in your mind that like you're playing a game and you're like, I need to get that?
I mean, yeah, I think sometimes, especially, we'll talk about it a little bit later, like Lord of the Rings, Breath of the Wild, and then I know more recently Tears of the Kingdom, and I haven't played that one, but Breath of the Wild, you can cook stuff and you can make all these amazing dishes that there's hundreds of combinations, maybe thousands, I don't know. But you're cooking some of that stuff, and it's just like late at night, back in my bachelor days, you've been playing for 5-6 hours, and you see that. Maybe it's just because I'm starving at that point, because I've been starving myself in favor of playing video games and not living a healthy lifestyle. But yeah, you get that stuff, and then you're like, you know what? I'm going to go get that right now.
Oh, do you mean Legend of Zelda? You said Lord of the Rings, and I'm like, what's
Oh,
Breath
did I
of
say
the
Lord of the Rings?
Wild?
Oh, okay. Legend of Zelda. No, Breath of the Wild.
Okay,
Legend of
that
Zelda,
makes
Breath of the
sense.
Wild.
I was like, I haven't heard of this. What the hell?
I'm hungry. I'm too hungry to think straight. Yes, no. Keep that in there, Chris, because they need to hear me. Messing it up.
People need to know.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I've had that happen a couple of times where I'm watching a movie, I think especially watching a movie like late at night, and you're like, man, I want that, or I just want to eat because the food makes me hungry. Definitely a psychological thing in there somewhere.
Oh yeah. No, probably. I mean, real quick, just next on the list, since we're on the topic of like animated foods, this one for me personally, like I needed to know what this tasted like. I remember I was in middle school when I started getting into Naruto, and Naruto's Ichiraku ramen is like that is like his staple. You know, if you've watched Naruto before, you know Naruto is obsessed with ramen, and his favorite spot within the Hidden Leaf is Ichiraku ramen. It's this little like a little hole in the wall shop that you just go in classic Japanese fashion. It's like, you know, it's outdoors. It just has the curtains on the outside that you come through, and then it's just an open little shack, and you sit at the table that's where they have the guy making ramen behind it, and he just makes this beautiful, beautiful animated ramen. And like I remember like as a child, you were so uncultured and you're like, I don't know what this is. And I remember my buddy that helped me get into like Naruto at the time, he's like, you want ramen? And I was like, what? You have ramen at your house? He's like, yeah. And he bust out the little like 89-cent top ramen packets. And he's like, this is it. This is what Naruto eats. And I'm like, no way. So that was like the first time that I ever had like top ramen. But come to find out, there's a little bit more to it.
Yeah.
There's a little more to it. But yeah, no, ramen has, I think that anime has just, it's a classic Japanese dish, but you know, if you're an American and you've never been to Japan, like what do you know about ramen? Especially if you're in like the Midwest, like there's not a lot of ramen. There's not a lot of, you know, Oriental cuisine out in the middle of the United States.
Yeah.
But you know, if you watch this anime, like I know millions of people do in America, then you get exposed to it. So it's a little bit of, you know, multicultural exposure, and then it makes people, you know, curious about other countries' dishes, which I'm all about. One of my favorite things to do when I'm traveling is, you know, trying out their dishes. And, you know, ramen is, you know, was to me, it was put on the map because of Naruto in the United States.
That's cool. Food is very cultural, man. That's a good fun thing to do. Yeah. When you're traveling is you don't want to go to Chipotle in Scotland, or you don't want to go to a McDonald's in Japan. Actually, McDonald's in Japan is quite different, but, you know, you want to get in there into like the small villages and to see like what people eat and how it affects their diet and where it comes from, how their culture has influenced what they eat. Because obviously places like Japan or coastal or island lands, a lot of fish dishes, a lot of rice dishes. Yeah, totally fun. Sometimes it's like super boring. Like England is like meat and potatoes.
They eat tomatoes for breakfast. I would never in a million years. Yeah, tomatoes, you know, bangers and mash. I'm like,
bangers
nah.
and mash.
That actually reminds me of a story. When I was in Korea, I actually got in like a full blown verbal altercation with one of my squad mates in Korea, because it was, we had a lot of disagreements and he wanted to do his own thing, but we were privates in a squad, so we had to stick together, and like he just wanted to do things that the other group didn't want to do, and he was the only one, he would not give it up. So like we there was a couple things that built up to like our final blowout, and we're cool now. We reached out to each other, you know, years later, and he apologized, and I'm like, cool, man, yeah, no hard feelings. But anyways, we were in Korea, and like we got to go out a couple times, and you know, in Itaewon they have this amazing, and this is going to sound kind of ironic because we're talking about enjoying foods of different cultures, but they had this amazing Brazilian steakhouse in Itaewon. Yeah, in Itaewon. I mean, we're not eating like cheeseburgers, you know. We're going, like we wanted to go out, and it was called Copacabana. So if you're ever in Itaewon, if it's still open, I hope it is, because it was awesome. Copacabana in Itaewon. It was like literally $20 for all you can eat Brazilian steakhouse, which is, you know, comparative to the United States, which if you want to eat at a Brazilian steakhouse, you're paying like $65, $70 a person. Yeah. So for $20 a head, it's like, why not? You know, so we're all like super jazzed. We've been to this place again. We've been to this place before. We're going again because it's that amazing. And this guy's just like, I think I'm going to get KFC. And I'm like, what? We're in Korea. It's $20 for amazing all you can eat steak. And you want to get KFC? what are you, crazy? And like, it was just like things like that building up to where we had this blowout. But that just reminded me of that story. When you're in countries, like, you want to enjoy the food. You want to enjoy good food if you're trying
Yes.
to, like, sample what they got. And I would never, unless I'm at like an airport and trying to grab a quick bite, because I'm in a hurry, I would never go to a KFC, just ever.
Yeah.
So that just reminded me of that. But
That's
anyways,
awesome, man. I got to go to Korea too, man. That was
Yeah.
the first time I had ever had authentic Korean barbecue, and I've had it a
Same.
lot since. Thankfully, in the Southern California area, there's some good places to go to if you want Korean
Oh,
barbecue.
yeah. I know. We've gone together
Yes.
before. Yeah. No, definitely some awesome Korean barbecue. Well, folks, next on the list is literally foods to die for, I guess, would be the topic here. Or at least foods to give your entire family up for.
Yes.
Yeah. And this one, we've talked about it before on the podcast, but it is the Turkish Delight from Chronicles of Narnia. Literally, this snot-nosed little brat, at the sight of one Turkish Delight or a small platter of Turkish Delights, decides to give up information to the potential killing of his entire family. And he does not give a flying fadoodle when it comes to this, because, hey, I've had it. I'm getting Turkish Delights out of this. Have you had a Turkish Delight, Izzy? Are they
they're
that
little
good?
like, I mean, they're not that good. They're not like betray your friends and family good, but they're pretty good. Maybe betray like a casual acquaintance good. But no, like there's the soft powder covered in like powdered sugar or whatever, like fruity flavored, chewy, kind of gummy chews. But my grandma, God rest her soul, used to have these available when the Christmas time came around. We go to visit her, but no, they're good, man. They're just like, there's just like jellied sugar, basically jelly fruit flavored sugar.
Yeah, I'm like looking at pictures, and they just don't do it for me to where I'm like, I'll give up my entire family for these.
It's funny. You talk about the circumstances from Chronicles of Narnia where he gives up his family. Food in movies, is often it can be like a storytelling device, right? Or a character device, like in in this one, like this kid only cares about himself, and all he cares about is the sweets right in front of him, and gives no thought to the consequences of his actions. And the same thing in movies like Pan's Labyrinth, when the little girl goes into where the feast is with the Thin Man, and all she has to do is go get the key and go and leave, but she just can't help herself. She grabs one little grape from this giant feast in front of the Thin Man, and the Thin Man's just kind of there, inert. And she grabs one little thing, and then boom, the Thin Man wakes up, and he kills a little fairy, and he goes after her. She almost dies because she just can't keep herself under control.
I don't know. Maybe that's like a youth thing. Like, I've seen videos on like Instagram of kids doing crazy stuff for sweets. Like, were you that obsessed with sweets when you were that age? Do you remember?
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah,
Oh,
I grew up. Sweets and I actually, it's almost like an emotional, psychological, spiritual problem for me,
like
because
borderline food disorder, like borderline eating disorder with sweets.
Well, you've heard of comfort eating. That was me all the time, because I grew up in an unstable family, unstable home and stuff, and so you just find anything to comfort yourself, anything to make you feel good in the moment, and that was like sweets or candy, sodas, everything, cupcakes, gummies, what have you, donuts. And then as you grow up and you actually you don't realize, I didn't realize how big a hold it had on me until I got married. Really, I'd be like, I was like, when I was single, I was like, I gotta cut it down. I gotta be healthy. I'm getting older, and I would cut it down. I cut it down like 30%, and I'm like, all right, I'm doing pretty good. And then when I had that little extra accountability, and when I got married, she's like, you are addicted to sugar. I'm like, I am not addicted to sugar. And I'm like, wait, maybe I am addicted to sugar. Well, I should.
Yeah, you might have been. When I first met you, you could not say no to like any sweet. If we had like, when we were filming Shift Fire, if somebody had like a piece of candy, you'd be like, oh, don't mind if I do.
Yoink. Yep, that's right, man.
That's mine now. That's funny, man. Well, I'm sorry you dealt with that, but you're over it now, so we can make fun of it.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the
But
way, anybody else out there, if you can relate, don't worry. You crave what you eat and you eat what you crave. So it takes a while to break out of it, but if you have a strong desire and you have a little bit of discipline, maybe some accountability, you can kind of break away from that stuff. And I encourage you to do so because sugar, based on what I know about sugar, like it just ain't good. We eat about 99% more sugar than a person should ever eat in their lifetimes.
yeah.
So yeah, because it's everywhere. But that's a different conversation. So
Yeah, sure. I mean, stay away from added sugars, people.
yeah,
Some foods have them naturally. I'm okay with those,
yeah,
But
fruits and whatever. Yeah.
yeah, but just stay away from the old Babe Ruth bar, huh? That's good, man. Well, I mean, there's a few more on this list we can get to. I mean, some foods aren't the best, but if you are trying to defeat somebody in a boxing ring, I guess they're absolutely necessary. But totally debunked and proven that this is not a good way to get your
Oh,
protein in the
really?
morning. Is it? I mean,
I don't know, man.
I'm not a fan of salmonella by all
Oh,
means.
you're right.
Yeah,
We're
if you
talking
want to
about the
get sick. Yeah.
The Rocky movies where he's eating the eggs. He like puts the raw eggs into the cup and then just drinks them to get the protein.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's our knowledge of food and nutrition is always evolving, and what is healthy one year will be debunked as unhealthy the next year. So you guys let us know. Maybe send us a DM on Instagram or shoot us a quick email about the whole drinking of eggs for extra protein.
Well, I will say this, just a quick Google search and looking at not .orgs, but if you know, classic WebMD, if you want to know if your headache is cancer, go on WebMD. And, if you have flu-like symptoms, you're probably going to die. So God rest your soul. But according to, WebMD, eating raw eggs can be potentially dangerous if they contain salmonella. And also if the eggs are unpasteurized, there's an increased chance of them containing bacteria because they haven't been cleansed. So honestly, I just, wouldn't eat raw eggs, especially in today's world. Back then it might have been an easy way just to get because I didn't think they had protein shakes in the Rocky era, did they? Like good protein shakes, or at least the access to like whey protein that we have
That's
today.
interesting.
I don't think that was a thing. So I think like raw eggs were, because in my opinion, it's way easier to drink your calories than it is to eat them.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I've even experimented before with like, because sometimes when I was trying to bulk back in the day and just get as big as possible, like trying to eat over 3,000 calories a day in clean food is actually difficult, and you get full very quickly. So I was like, it's so much easier to drink your calories than it is to eat them. So like I
Yeah.
experimented with like blending chicken and rice together with like some chicken broth and like just drinking it because it's way easier to eat. And you're still getting the same things, even though it's in liquid form. I think it digests quicker because your body doesn't have to break it down from a solid. So you might be less full fast, but you still get those calories. But if you're a nutritionist listening to this, let me know if that's a stupid theory. But like
just a quick search says 1950s protein powder, as we know it, is born bodybuilder and scientist Irving Johnson, who changed his name to Rio Blair after a spiritualist told him he'd have more luck if his name contained more R's. Developed the first dissolvable protein in the early 1950s. So that's my internet sleuthing.
There you go.
At a surface level.
Yeah, but I mean, protein has come a long way. I remember when I was getting into it, like protein shakes sucked. Buying protein from the store, it was like the worst tasting thing in the world. We've come a long way with supplements.
A long way. Oh yeah. I remember going to a place called the Whole Wheatery in Lancaster, California. My dad, when I was younger, was super into nutrition. He was in it, and he was kind of more of a surface level, follow whatever the fad is kind of thing.
Yeah.
But he'd go to the gym and he had his like workout buddies, and then he'd have the proteins and stuff like that. I remember having protein shakes. And I'd have to have the ones with a lot of fruit in them because, man, that protein, it's got a real grainy kind of aspect to it.
Yeah, you got to blend
like
it. If you're doing protein shakes, get yourself a Ninja, those little bullet things. And then that's what I do with mine, because my protein shakes are about 550, 600 calories. What I do for my protein shake, I do First form protein. I like it because it tastes awesome. It blends really well, and the macros are really good on it. So I do about a scoop and a half or 2 scoops of first form protein. And then I'll do half a cup of oats. I'll do 1 whole banana. I'll do a scoop of peanut butter for fats.
Ooh.
And then I do a 3-second pour of almond milk, unsweetened but vanilla flavor. And then I blend them in. And then I'll do also a scoop of 5 grams of creatine because creatine's great for you.
Yes,
And
I
then
heard.
that's my protein shake, and it literally sits at around 500 calories. So my protein shake after the gym is literally another meal.
Have you heard anything about protein or creatine being good for like brain function?
Oh yeah, it's there's I think creatine has become like one of the most researched and studied supplements of our time, and
Wow.
like it's you know the body naturally creates creatine, and creatine's awesome for the production of ATP, which is pretty much energy for energy for our body or energy
Yeah.
for the cells.
Hmm.
So they're great for restoring cognitive function. You can be on creatine in low amounts, so like 5 grams for a long period of time without coming off of it. It's great for muscle development. A lot of people tend to say, oh, you're just your muscle development is just water retention. It's just increased water retention. But my argument to that is, okay, if I'm getting bigger muscles and I'm getting stronger, but it's just water retention, what's so bad about that? You know?
That was a big thing. Do you remember? I don't know exactly when this was or how old you might have been, but there was a baseball player. It wasn't not Jerry Maguire, but it was like something Maguire, and he was like he was on a record on the road to beating the record for the most home runs in a season, and he was on creatine, and that's kind of when I first heard the word creatine, I think, and I can't remember if there was controversy about it or not, but anyway, that's the first time I ever remember hearing. You guys can let me know which Maguire was it that was trying
Which
to break
McGuire?
that record. Yeah, it's like not Toby Maguire, not Jerry Maguire, or something Maguire. Anyway, I don't care.
Steve McGuire.
Steve Maguire, Johnson Maguire, but baseball, Mark Maguire. I think it was Mark Maguire. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, he was this big dude, and then we'd be like, he was taking,
Just
biggest juicer. Okay, maybe he was taking other stuff besides
yeah, it's
creatine.
probably taking steroids. Yeah. Yeah, with
Okay,
creatine.
forget I said anything, folks.
Yeah. It was just creatine, folks. That's all he was taking.
That's creatine. I actually had my old wrestling coach in high school ended up leaving teaching and wrestling and just became an all natural bodybuilding competitor.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's I don't know where that came from, but
Yeah.
have it
Well,
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, well, anyways, I've been on creatine for quite a while. I've had a lot of
Yeah.
experience with it, and I've had a great time.
Yeah, I take a little bit actually in my shakes in the morning after working out, but mostly because I want to get the old bean, as healthy as possible for the
Yeah,
brain
no,
function. That's
yeah,
what
it's
I heard.
great for that. Just make sure you're drinking lots of water.
Yep, lots of water. Yeah, exactly. One of my favorite kind of storytelling devices / meals that is not very appealing is the single cell protein combined with synthetic aminos, vitamins, and minerals, or SICPASAM.
Six-pasam?
It's from the Matrix, folks. Matrix
Oh,
1999, when Neo is on the Nebuchadnezzar and they're all having a meal together. All they've really got on this thing is this synthetic slop that looks kind of like
it's like
like
oatmeal.
oatmeal. Yeah, like a runny oatmeal, basically. And that's what Dozer says or Tank says. One of those guys, he's like, it's a single cell protein combined with synthetic aminos, vitamins, and minerals. It's everything the body needs. And then Mouse is like, does it have everything the body needs? And then he tries to pimp out the woman in red to Neo. He's like, I could get a private meeting for you with the woman in red. But I love it because it does two things. The main purpose of it is to kind of tell you what kind of world these people live in the future. They don't have natural resources. They don't have farmlands or chickens and cows to get regular food from. So they all live off, especially when they're out in the world, basically
Just live off
out doing
Beyond Meat.
missions. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, beyond all regular natural nutritious things. But I just think it's a funny little storytelling device and a fun little scene.
No, it's good,
So
man. Actually, I actually like that a lot because, off my rant about thoughts about nutrition and training, one thing, if I had to recommend someone to do anything, is if you can disassociate food with pleasure and just reassociate it with fuel. Like food is just fuel for my body. It doesn't care. I don't care what it tastes like. I don't care what the consistency
yeah,
is. I am
yep,
eating this for the sole purpose of enhancing my performance. You will go a long way. Yeah,
yeah.
you will eat what you have to. You won't be like I don't like sweets at all. Just because I don't they don't do
What's
anything
that
for me.
like?
Yeah, no. What's that boring life like? The
Oh
only sweets I
man,
will say that I do succumb to is my fiance loves to bake, and these are the most boring sweets ever, and this will tell you exactly what type of person I am. But my favorite thing that she makes for me, and like that I will say yes to, I call it the chocolate chipless cookie. It is literally just a chocolate chip cookie with no chocolate in it, so it's just a cookie.
oh jeez.
Yeah, and they're
Oh,
amazing.
that's
Yeah,
awesome, man.
that's like the extent of my sweet tooth. Like I will have the chocolate chipless cookie.
Are you turned off by something that's like way too sweet? Because I don't know
Yeah.
what that's
No.
like to
No.
have something be too sweet. Because I have friends, the wife, she's like, "Oh, that's too sweet. That's so rich." And like, what are you talking about? That's amazing.
Yeah, no, 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 too sweet. I don't like sweet at all. I like savory, so I go
Savory.
crazy over like stews and like hearty meals more than anything.
Uh,
But I
yeah.
don't know, man. That's how my brain's wired.
Uh,
But
good for
this
you,
is
man.
actually yeah. Thank you, I appreciate it. Speaking of negative things, we got two negative things I want to talk about in the
Okay.
food section just because it pops out to my what pops out to me. What is cocaine gum, Izzy?
Oh, it's exactly what you think it is, man.
Is it
It's in
gum
Red
with
Dead
cocaine?
Redemption 2. Yeah, it's specifically because cocaine. I think as I recall in history, it used to not be like an illegal thing. It was like it was in medicines and they would use it for whatever. But it's cocaine gum. I just think it's hilarious because when I was doing my playthrough of Red Dead Redemption 2, I would always go off on a rant about the cocaine gum. I got to get some more cocaine gum. No, it's fine. I'm not addicted to cocaine gum. I got to get one more stick of cocaine gum,
Yeah,
just one
just
more
one
stick,
more
just
stick,
give me one more
please.
piece. But I
I'll
love it
do
because
anything.
it's in video games, food is basically a device for giving your character energy or ability buffs or things like that. But then there's also negatives if you cook something wrong. Or in like the Fallout series, you can have certain things, but they have radiation attached to them, so you got to watch
Mm,
out for that.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's just a really clever uh, you know, dynamic that they can put in there. And so the cocaine gum, I forget. Actually, I've forgotten at this point what it does to you alone. But if you mix it, if you have cocaine gum and then you mix it with like something like rum or moonshine, room
Room.
or moonshine, and it causes that your vision in the game gets all like weird and trippy, and
Yeah.
it's like you're drunk. Um, and then the other one that I just thought was hilarious is in the Metal Gear Solid series, you have cigarettes, and in Metal Gear Solid, as I recall correctly, it's just all it does is slowly drain your life when you have a
Why
cigarette
would you ever use it then?
because it's just a fun, interesting
Yeah.
dynamic. Now, in the game, it actually has a practical use because there's a certain point where there are these invisible lasers in a room that you have to bypass,
Oh, so
and
you
if you
blow the
smoke
smoke. Yeah.
and you can see, you know,
I
uh,
see.
so there is it has another purpose. I think it reduces your stress level in Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots. But I just think that's just real clever, because like
Yeah.
if you go to
It's a
one
trade-off.
level, yeah, it's a trade-off. If you go to one level, you berries and meat packs in Starfield, they give you a little bit of health, but then there's also the negative effects of cocaine gum and cigarettes.
That's awesome, man. Well, actually, it's funny with the cocaine is, when Coca-Cola first hit the market, like they contained an estimated 9 milligrams of cocaine per glass.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at the time, like cocaine was legal and like actually a common ingredient in most medicines.
Dude.
But they, with more research in 1903, it was removed from the glasses, unfortunately.
Oh.
But But yeah, no, it's, cocaine was totally a norm back then. Everybody thought it was safe to do.
I'm sure that there's a direct correlation between the removal of cocaine from things like Coca-Cola and the increase in global warfare. If we
Yeah.
would just kept that stuff in there, man, we all been like chilled out. Let's have a Coke. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, man. It's crazy how far we've come. But we're running a little long, folks, so I think we're gonna transition to our fan question, play our game, and then get the hell out of here. But we have a great fan question to walk down memory lane here for Izzy and I. And this one comes from Tamir Lindsay via email, and they want to know favorite food moment in your Army experience. Do you have a moment that you had with food? I have
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, I got one.
You want to start? Yeah.
Oh, thanks, man. It was right after SEER school, the first meal after SEER school, because you're out doing SEER school for a couple weeks, and then you get that capture phase, right? And what they do is they also have a homecoming moment. So they kind of open up the gates, and there's people there, and you have a barbecue, and it's like a really fun, great experience. So it's like after you've been out there for 2 weeks, slogging away, not eating, not sleeping, not drinking much water, getting slapped around in your capture experience. And then after that, man, having a barbecue, just that first couple bites, that first drink of the Coke. Oh, it's just so good, man. It doesn't even have to be good food, but you're just so starved for any kind of like sensation. That was like a really cool moment.
Yeah. I mean, I have a couple moments with food. Most of them come from Ranger School. I'll do a couple really quick. In Syria, the SDF, it was one of their holidays. They brought us an entire cooked goat on a silver platter, and they just put it down on the floor, and they had all these garlic packets. So it was a really cool moment just to share a meal. Like we were talking about earlier with like the SDF guys, and basically just with your bare hands pulling meat off this goat with its head still on, and just enjoying it that way. That was a really cool moment with food. But most of my triumphant victories with food came from Ranger School. And just because food is the biggest motivator, in my opinion, in Ranger School. Like you have either tired Rangers or you have hungry Rangers. And I was 100% a hungry Ranger because I snuck in a bunch of nicotine gum. So I was never tired. But with food, there's a couple moments like in Ranger School. After every phase, you get like a hot dog X. Basically, they give you a bunch of food. And I remember when I finished my first Derby before I got recycled, I ate 13 hot dogs, 7 bags of chips, and drank 3 sodas. And I was like the happiest I've ever been. And so that was amazing. My second dog X after I recycled, I could not eat that much. I have no idea how that was possible. I ended up eating like 6 hot dogs, 2 bags of chips, and 1 soda because I was like, I could not physically do that again. But I think one of the best moments ever, though, when I was recycled in Derby phase, the 4th Ranger Training Brigade or Battalion, they were doing their EIB, which is their Expert Infantryman Badge qualification for their soldiers. And they asked the recycles if any of us were EIB qualified. And I was like one of the only guys in the entire platoon of recycles that was EIB qualified. So I ended up being a cat. Like I ended up walking dudes and helping out with EIB as a Ranger School recycle student. So they like brought me off. And Ranger School Recycle, you are literally a prisoner. They don't give you your phone back. For 2 weeks, you're just sitting there. You're doing area beautification. There is one pay phone for like 60 guys. So if you want to talk to your loved ones, it needs to be between a specific time. Pretty much they give you yard time that you're just out there and you have to like use your phone card to talk to your loved ones. And there's a trail of 20 guys behind you screaming, hurry the hell up. And but when they took me off post, the RA I was with on the way back, he's like, don't tell anybody, but we're going to Arby's. And I'm like, yeah. So we went to Arby's and I literally spent $50 on like everything. I was like, give me one of everything. And I just like jammed it down my throat in the car before we got back to base. But then when we got back to base, I got basically picked up by the RI who's in charge of our platoon. He's like, hey, it's time for dinner, go eat. And a Ranger School student will never be like, no, I'm not hungry. Otherwise, if I said that, he would 100% know that guy did something fishy or that I ate and I'd get in trouble. So I went to the chow hall and I ate as much as I could. And I was so full because I just ate $50 worth of Arby's, literally so full that when I ran back to the barracks, I threw up everything. Like I projectile vomited all the food, but I did it with a smile on my face because I was so happy and I was just literally laughing, throwing up, and smiling. It was it was probably the greatest moment through my entire military career.
That's amazing, man. What a great story.
Yeah.
Well, we hope that answers your question, Timur. And now it's time for the game, Cameron. And I have the game here.
All
This is a
right.
fun game that Chris came up with. And it's and I want to ask you, Cameron, what do you get for the man who has everything? As the old saying goes, well, for you, Cameron, Chris has cooked up a very special game. This is called You Call That Food? Or You Call This Food? I'm going to give you a military slang term for food, and you tell me what it's referring to. It's super easy, simple game.
Okay.
We'll start with a warm-up question. The first one is chow.
Chow. What do you mean? What is chow? It's usually just eating at the dining facility.
Right,
Just
but
food
what is
in
it?
general. Yeah, it's just food
there
in
you go.
general. Yeah.
There you go.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
you get it. Yeah, don't overthink it. You got it. You got it, man.
Okay, yeah. Chow is food in general.
All right, number one. Ready?
Yep.
MRE.
Meals ready to eat. My favorite.
All right, there you go. Fun fact, other nicknames for MRE are meals rejected by everyone, meals rarely edible, meals rejected by Ethiopians.
I guess
Meals
Ethiopians don't
requiring-
like MREs.
Meals requiring enemas, meals refusing to exit. I feel that
That's
one.
a good one. Yeah, the enema one and the exit are true. You get constipated hardcore.
And then massive rectal expulsions on the other end.
Those are great. Those are all great.
All right, number two, tube steak.
Tube steak. Is that like the hamburger patty that comes in the MRE?
Final answer?
Final answer. Tube steak. Never heard of it.
The answer says it's just a hot dog.
Oh, interesting.
I'm sure this is probably something where Chris kind of looked up stuff, found a list somewhere,
Yeah,
so it may not be universally applicable, but let's try this next one. This one I never heard of. Boodle.
Boodle? Is this some kind of like concoction that you make at the chow hall?
Can you be a little more specific?
Let's say it's like boodle. Boodle. I've never heard of this one either. I had no idea. But I'm sure it's some like mix of numerous ingredients that are available.
Well, it just says a snack food or candy. Boodle.
Really?
Sounds old school to me.
That sounds super old school. We call those lickies and chewies.
Lickies and chewies is what I'm familiar with. Yeah, lickies and chewies. And all right, well, let's try this one. Oh, I can't say it because it's got a curse word in it. All right. Well, Cameron, for your sake, I'll say it, but it's shit on a shingle.
Shit on a shingle. Well, thank you for sucking up your pride on that one. Shit on a shingle. Shit on a
shingle.
Shingle. Shit on a shingle.
Yeah, like a roofing shingle. I've never heard this one. It doesn't sound appetizing at all.
It doesn't. Shit on a shingle. Is it just like the meals you get in the field, like on a paper plate or something?
Not really. It says beef on toast, sometimes with gravy.
I've never had that ever in the military.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was a thing that exists. All right, let's move on. Maybe you'll get this one. Mid-rats.
Mid-rats. Okay, these are great. These are like the chow hall opens at like midnight, and you get like sandwiches and stuff. Usually you have them when you come in from mission.
Oh, I would totally take that. The answer here says midday rations or lunch. But I could see, mid-rats, midnight rations, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we called it. So, like,
okay.
Usually,
all right.
Yeah. So I'm just talking from my actual experience. Yeah.
Yeah, because I trust you over Chris's internet sleuthing. I'm sure he'll tell us where he got it from later. But, all right, the last one is pogey bait.
Pogey bait? Oh, that's like the most unhealthy crap you can get. It's like candy, snacks. It's like for all the pogues that are fat, so it's like pogey bait.
Yeah. Well, I like that one. I'm going to give you that one. Chris put down refers to items or treats that are used to lure or entice someone, particularly soldiers. you were in that ballpark. But no, it's totally like, yeah, it's just not very good, high quality food that people are just like, they are.
Yeah,
It's like
like a
the
Babe
low
Ruth
quality.
bar. Yeah,
Yeah, like
yeah,
a Babe Ruth bar. Yeah, exactly. Or
yeah. It's
Skittles from the
Pokemon.
MRE.
Yeah, yeah.
He has a history lesson here. The Marines in China were before World War II were issued candy, Baby Ruth's Tootsie Rolls, as part of their ration supplements. At the time, sugar and other associated sweets were rare commodities in China and in much demand by the Chinese. So the troops found the candy useful for bartering in town. The Chinese word for prostitute, roughly translated, is pogie. Oh, whoa. Thus,
Okay.
Marines being Marine, candy became pogie bait. Oh, it's
Oh man,
prostitution
so
bait.
they were prostitution for candy. That's a cheap lay, if you ask me.
Yeah. Salt used to be traded across the world as a
That
high
is true.
commodity. So
That is
depends on
true.
the availability. Well, Cameron, you didn't do too well, but I think we both learned a lot about how how Chris searches the internet.
Yeah, for his military
And
terminology.
yeah, and also
Wikipedia is accurate.
actually, you know what? It's we talked about culture a little bit and your experiences. Some of these things seemed kind of familiar to you, but they had a different use for when you were in your
Yeah.
experience. So
No,
yeah.
absolutely. Still, regardless, a fun game. You learn something every single day. It's always a pleasure. And folks, we hope you enjoyed this episode of the PCFM podcast. We hope you learned something about food or just stuck it out in your car. We appreciate you being here. Izzy?
Oh my god, I totally forgot. Cue music. Oh my, that was just I just blanked.
Oh, no, I wanted to see if you had any exit thoughts, but yeah, that works too, man. Cue music.
Yeah.